The Biden administration just threw every single railroad worker in the country under the bus, and we really need to talk about it. First, a little bit of background. Railroad workers and their unions have been threatening strike for months now over failed negotiations with their companies. Companies that are reporting record-breaking profits and the near tripling of their operating profit margins over 2 decades. Unions representing workers across several of these companies were essentially asking for some pretty small things, including things like pay increases as well as really critically paid sick leave, because right now they don't get any. Those companies, however, even again in the face of record-breaking profits, refused to budge on key components, notably the paid sick leave. As these negotiations broke down months ago, the unions began prepping for a strike, but the Biden administration intervened twice. The first intervention stopped the strike for about a month and led to the creation of a presidential advisory council that was ideally trying to be a mediator between the companies and their unions. That being said, by all reasonable reports, the presidential advisory council was siding more with companies than their unions and refusing to budge on certain key issues, again, paid sick leave, which led to the second intervention. The second intervention occurred on the night of the deadline of negotiations, where the president strong-armed unions into agreeing to a tentative contract with their companies. That contract really notably did not give workers paid sick leave. It gave them unpaid time off for routine or preventative medical appointments on a Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, with at least 30 days notice plus no attendance penalties for hospitalizations or surgeries. Notice that is not paid time off. Rank-and-file members of several of those unions did take note of that and then refused to ratify the tentative agreement. What that essentially means is that the strike very well could still be back on. That being said, the Biden administration today released a statement. In that statement, he said, "I am calling on Congress to pass legislation immediately to adopt a tentative agreement between railroad workers and operators without any modifications or delay." Going further to say, "As a proud pro-labor president, I am reluctant to override the ratification procedures and the views of those who voted against the agreement. But in this case, where the economic impact of shutdown would hurt millions of other working people and families, I believe Congress must use its power to adopt this deal." You read that right. The President of the United States is pushing for Congress to force the railroad workers' unions to accept the deal. A deal that their own rank and file do not agree with and have voted against. Instead of doing the absolute bare minimum and pushing for them to have things like critically paid sick leave, he is essentially telling them to go fuck themselves. Now we just have to sit tight and see what happens, but I think it's fair to say that the next time he calls himself a proud pro-labor president, that it's going to ring a little hollow. Anyway, as always, the union makes us strong. Have a great day.